As of today, I've been tracking my habits for 1 full year using this quite large whiteboard. It was just over a year ago that I learned about James Clear and atomic habits, and that's when I started tracking my habits. So I'd like to share with you the lessons I've learned over the last 12 months, the good parts, the bad parts, and what you should know before starting to track your own habits. What's up guys, my name is George, I'm a freelance video marketer based in the north of England. On this channel, I share content all around tech, filmmaking, and freelancing, so if that is your vibe, then hit subscribe and welcome to the channel. Today I'd like to throw it back a little bit to a year ago when I first started tracking my habits, the reason why, how I sort of got started, and the problems I had. I was made aware of atomic habits and habit tracking via a friend of mine, and after he had sort of taken it up, it immediately caught my eye and I thought that's something I could definitely see myself doing, and also something that I really saw a need for at the time. The driving force for me and the reason that I needed to do it was because I had only become freelance about 6 months prior to that. Being full-time freelance, spent a lot of my time in this room editing videos, editing photos, contacting clients, getting jobs, getting turned down to jobs, all that sort of stuff. No 2 work days were the same anymore, and the first 6 months of that taught me a lot in terms of finding consistency when you don't have a regular work day. Following my previous 2 jobs, I will never have a job ever again. I'm going to be freelance / self-employed for the rest of my life, 100%, because it works so much more for me, and the benefits for me far outweigh the negatives. And the negatives, I think, are only negatives until you get them in control, which habit tracking for me definitely helped with. Like I say, working from home is tricky, and no 2 work days are the same. You don't really have, something to get up for and be ready at 9 to start work, and then to finish at 5. You don't really have a schedule that is predetermined by something else that you just have to naturally adhere to. So it's up to you to define your own schedule, to figure out what's going to work for you to be as productive as possible that day. Like, is it worth you starting actually doing work at 6 a.m. or is it better you wait until 10 or 11 a.m? I have trialed and errored many different work days, and with habit tracking I was able to give myself sort of a base level of productivity so that I knew consistently across every single day I would get these handful of things done. I knew I was making progress on the things that I already decided that mattered to me. There are various different methods or mediums for tracking habits. Some people use apps on their phone, something that's a bit more digital and they can just sort of access it next to Instagram, next to other productivity apps. Other people use things like notepads or notebooks in order to track things in more of an analog way. It's a bit smaller and maybe a little bit more elegant. This is actually my bullet journal that I'm going to be doing a video on at some point in the future once I've sort of dialed in a bit more of what I like about it. I'm still learning the bullet journal. Or for me, I actually went the whiteboard route. I'm not going to pick up my big whiteboard again. This is one of my 3 whiteboards that I have in this room. I have this little one that sticks onto a big whiteboard on the wall, and then I have the big habit tracking whiteboard. I personally like using a whiteboard because it's quite substantial in terms of its actual size, and I can't really ignore it in my room. It's just this massive whiteboard like leant up against the wall. It's just there. I know it's only there for tracking. If I see my grid layout and I don't fill it in each week, I don't feel like guilt or anything, but I just go, oh, and I need to do that. I can see how some people might get a bit scared that, oh, you'll feel quite pressured on yourself to, what if I don't get all these habits done? For me, I really value the accountability that it has instilled in me in terms of ticking off certain boxes, and if I don't hit them, I still record it. So you can see from these screenshots, these are every single week of the last year. I've tracked every single week, and you can see that there's some weeks where I haven't maybe scored as high and some weeks where I've scored a lot higher, and I make sure that I always record my failures as well as my successes, and that has become something for me as a freelancer and for just a human being, has made me feel a lot more content in everything that I do. So habit tracking has definitely allowed me to really consolidate that and see it in a physical way, and it's not just an arbitrary thing. It's become a very physical thing for me now, and 1 year in, I'm definitely going to keep going with it. While I have been consistently tracking my habits every day for the last 12 months, I haven't been tracking the exact same habits for the last 12 months. Some of them have come and gone, and that has sort of depended on what my priorities are at the time, as your priorities will change every few months. You might suddenly think, this is actually less important to me than I originally thought it was. And when I have changed priorities like that, it's made me realize just how much things can change, even in a short period of time. And one of the other reasons that I've changed my habits here and there is sometimes I'll be reading a book that I'll think is really interesting, and maybe the author will talk about an idea or a practice that I might want to try and implement in my life. I will try that on the habit board for X amount of time. Ultimately, when I realized that isn't something I super care about, or like the benefit I'm getting from it isn't really worth the effort, then I'll take it off or replace it with something else. The key habits for me that haven't changed throughout these 12 months are meditating for 10 minutes every day, exercising in some way every day, journaling in some way every day, reading roughly a chapter every day, tracking my calories on MyFitnessPal, and tracking my spending. Those two are consolidated into one because as soon as I look at my spending, I think about calories. As soon as I look at my MyFitnessPal app, I think about spending. So for me, those two have been grouped together in a habit that has worked for me quite well. Because of the nature of my habit board, which I'm just going to show you in these screenshots, I have always had either one habit per row, or occasionally I have tried to consolidate / group together two habits that I think kind of complement each other, or, I will meditate, then read naturally. And that was actually a group for a little bit, but then ultimately over time that changed, and I just adapt the board to suit how I'm sort of approaching each day and how my schedule is working. The core habits that I've found myself dedicating to the most definitely all relate to my mental, physical, and financial well-being, which I think are probably the main driving forces behind me pursuing things like habit tracking, like bullet journaling. It's helped me keep my mindset focused so that even when I have a week that's full of shoots and I'm meeting loads of different people and I'm talking about new ideas with people, that when I get back to my normal day-to-day at home, that I don't lose sight of what I was originally doing. If I've been given a new idea by someone, given some new opportunities, that's great, and I always take them on board, but I need to make sure at all times that I am not suddenly, changing tact and just going the other way for no reason. So having habits in place has definitely helped me keep everything on track long term. So as I briefly mentioned before, I have started bullet journaling, but also along with that, back in November of last year, I also started using the app Notion. And Notion, just as a brief one, I'm going to be doing a few videos on how I use Notion. Notion has completely changed the way that I approach any task, be that professional, personal, or otherwise. It breaks down so many aspects of different pieces of software that I was using, or paper that I was using to be able to do certain things. And it has just consolidated all those things into one piece of software that is cloud-based that I can use on my tablet, my PC, my laptop, my phone. It's amazing. I love Notion. Along with that, as I mentioned before, I've also started bullet journaling, and that's only been the last 3 months, I think since July 2020. And I do like bullet journaling so far, but because it's quite open to interpretation, the same way that habit tracking is, the same way that Notion is, bullet journaling so micro, not only in its form factor, but also in the actual focus of your tasks, that it's taking me a little bit more time to actually figure out, okay, what do I want to plan month by month on here? What do I want to plan week by week on here? And then the day by day. For me, tracking habits has become second nature now. It's something that I just do at the end of each day, or if I go a couple of days without tracking them, I just mentally know everything that I've done on have I hit these habits last couple of days? And I'm always very honest with myself. If I'm did that really count as exercise? No, that didn't really count as exercise. Luckily, I got a Fitbit, so that tells me when I've actually exercised, which has always been very helpful. That is it from me today, guys. I hope you have found this video helpful. And if you have any questions about habit tracking, how to get started, using Notion, using a bullet journal, drop a comment on this video and I will get back to you. You can also check out some links in the description to things like James Clear's Atomic Habits, bullet journal setups, and things like that. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until next time, I'm out. soon.